Hi, and welcome to the returning Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Sean.
Kieran.
Lee.
Sorry we've been away again for the last few weeks, but hey, families. Can't live with them. Anyway, Formula One. No, it's been it's been a torrid few weeks, shall we say? It's just so to make up for it, we're doing our half-term season review, and we've got a guest on the show joining us in a little bit. Although, according to Lee, I'm breaking time again. He actually joined us last Thursday, and we pre-recorded it. In the meantime, how are we all after a month or so off?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think
Pretty
we're all
good.
right. Yeah.
Busy. Very busy. But yeah, good.
Yeah, I thought summer was meant to be quiet.
This has just reminded me, actually. I meant to ask you this when we weren't recording, but I'm going to do it now so I don't forget.
Oh, God.
I bought a hot tub, and I need to ask you about chemicals. I really didn't mean that to pop in my head before we started recording.
Right. Well, first answer is yes, you'll need some.
Chlorine. I've already got chlorine
Yep.
in it, but the other stuff I don't know what I should be doing.
Right. Second answer is, as we don't have a hot tub anymore, but we've still got all the chemicals, would you like them?
I would love them, thank you. That would be awesome.
We have a box of general hot tub crap and a load of filters as well. So
What was the other
Amazing.
chemical? I remember chlorine. I can't remember what the other one was.
there was pH plus and pH
that's
minus.
the one.
Dimethyltryptamine.
No, that was just a good night out.
That's why the hot tub made me feel so weird.
And spoke to me.
I've seen that episode of American Dad. So, yes, as well as Formula One, come to us for hot tub advice.
We need to send this particular podcast to Lazy Spa and see if we get some sponsorship.
Where would we put the free hot tub that I'm sure Lazy Spa would send us because they're really nice people? We can't fit it in the garage.
That's true.
You know what? I do love a lazy spa. And my address is 14.
This is a bold move. A bold move that might not have the fruits you want.
No,
No fucking Pringles turned up the other week, did it? So I don't stand a chance.
Do you know when we started doing this podcast before? It must have been. Were we doing this in 2008?
No.
Right, so it would have been the second time. Oh no, yeah, because it would have been after 2008, so that works. So when in 2008 was the first time I had peanut butter M&Ms when I was in America, and you couldn't get peanut butter M&Ms in the UK for a while because it's not even a real country anymore. But I asked for peanut M&Ms, and somebody sent me a stone of M&Ms. A stone of peanut M&Ms. It just came. It was like this it must have cost them a fortune to send it, let alone buy them. And yeah, it was tremendous.
Wow.
we don't just do this for free stuff. He says, looking at the box that a friend of his sent him about 20 albums in from America this week.
Yeah.
Magic. One of my day job colleagues had a complete random turn up last week when she wasn't in, and present her for her to look at a load of sheet music of songs that she's played on her program. So it's in no way weird stalky behaviour.
That's... So, Kieran, you're not going to be getting a lazy spa, but you might get...
Would this co-worker be like a mutual friend of ours?
It would, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's got that's a weird crowd.
Oh, very much so.
Isn't she the late night crowd?
Yes.
Oh yeah. It's just taxi drivers who aren't taxis.
No. This was a man who'd come over from Gloucestershire, and walked up to the radio station that we work at, which is on top of a big hill.
Oh God, he'll have walked past our house. I'm just gonna nip out and disinfect the pavement.
Yes, decided he wanted a tour, which is not a thing we do for people who turn up on spec. Disappeared into a toilet for a suspiciously long period of time, and then got this sheet music out.
I feel like I should be finishing this sentence with "Hello, patrons."
No, it's the silly season. It all goes at this point.
Wow.
Oh God! You know those songs you just played? Here's how to play it on a piano, which you don't have, and
can't
you have
play.
the song. You can't play. Oh man!
Next, the lyrics in Latin.
Yeah.
Oh, if we're doing that, this is turning into a half Patreon show, isn't it? Because there's sod all left want to talk about until we do the teams. My dad, as I've mentioned before, hasn't been too well lately, and it was suggested to him. Now he's got a little bit of movement back in his right hand because the physio appears to be working. Learning to play piano would be beneficial. So I'm going to do the dutiful thing here, being sort of the caring offspring and occasionally a musician, but mostly a bass player before Lee says it. So my mum said, what would you recommend? It's like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'll buy one. So went onto Amazon and I looked for a kids learning piano, and the only ones that I could find that were suitable, that had like built-in tuition, also came with a microphone so you could sing along to what you were playing. So I did the decent thing and ordered that for him and bought a pair of noise-cancelling headphones for my mum.
You bought him a Bon Tempi piano.
Pretty much.
I buy those gifts for my niece and nephew just to wind up my sister. It's every year. Is it the drum kit or the trumpet? What am I going to do? What can I get her with this time?
Didn't we do that once one year to a friend that had not long had kids? So turned up with Christmas present for offspring, and it was something that was loud, made a lot of noise, and then we scarpered like nobody's business out the door.
Sounds like something we'd do.
I mean, I think it was Hell Child, who is now Hell Teenager. I suppose we better.
Sorry,
go on.
Lee, are you teaching your son the drums?
Kind of. He's got drums. He's not playing them at the minute. The mission to turn him into an MMA fighter is definitely going better than the mission to turn him into a musician.
The same motor skills generally.
Yeah, it's all good. Like, I mean, realistically, he can't protect me with drums, so
I don't know. I reckon if you whacked someone round the head with a drum, I reckon you might do some
I don't think
damage.
that's allowed in the UFC. He's got a snare.
I thought it was just no nuts, no eye gouging. I don't think anyone said anything in the rules about no drums.
And bearing in mind some of the venues over here, knowing how to hit someone with a drum is pretty useful.
It does feel strange though, because he's in his he's just moved up to 6+ in the school he's going to, and I mean obviously I expect it, because how else are you supposed to do this? But it does seem weird when the coach says at the beginning of the lesson, right, we're going to do warm-up exercises, then we've got takedowns, then we're going to play a game, so they play like a game of football. He said, then we're going to learn cross-collar chokes. And it's just weird. It's great, but weird.
When you say football, do you mean Australian rules?
No. Just they just play a little game. I think it's just to make the kids think they're actually having fun and not being turned into assassins.
Oh Christ! Yep, we're back. Right, Formula One, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're roughly at the halfway point of the season. We're in the summer break, and what better thing to do than give the teams their half-term report? So we'll do it. Yeah. We'll do it in the normal way. Work from the back to the front, which means we have to start with AlphaTauri.
Yep.
With their 3 points.
One for each driver.
The funny thing is, it does feel like the beginning of every season. this season being no different, where we started to talk about, is this the year that AlphaTauri is just going to be like best of the rest because like they've got all the help from Red Bull, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
No.
Next year they're getting this year's Red Bull car.
With
Is that the deal? Is it?
apparently with Hugo
Allegedly.
Boss logos
I think,
all over
yeah,
it.
that is the official
Yeah.
rumor. They're getting rid of AlphaTauri as well, aren't they? And I don't know whether they're going to go back to being Toro Rosso.
Oh no!
or-
Apparently they've said they're not going to be Toro Rosso again.
Okay,
So it looks like it's going to be Hugo Boss Racing.
excellent.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything, obviously, because but I think I'd prefer that to AlphaTauri
Yeah, but I
Oh.
think
or Toro Rosso, actually.
I didn't know AlphaTauri was really a thing before they became a thing in F1.
Much like Alpine.
Yeah, yeah, that as well. Yeah. These things come along and go, oh, they're big brands. I know I grew up on the Isle of Wight, but there's a limit here. I must have heard of one of these things, you know. But,
Yeah, it's like grew up in the Isle of Wight, not fucking Congo.
yeah. Tell me when Matalan F1 comes along, and I'll let you know. I've heard of it.
We can have Ike Racing.
Yeah, AlphaTauri have been crap.
Yeah, I mean the car's been terrible. Nick De Vries
Was terrible.
was terrible.
And it's now going to Harvard instead.
Oh yes,
Is he?
he's given up motor racing and he's doing an MBA.
The Nick De Vries situation is yet another reason. This is probably the worst place for me to say this. The yet another reason for why I hate Formula One fans is the same people that were so upset that he wasn't given another race after being terrible for the whole season are the same people that if he'd carried on off to the summer break would have said, well, they should have got rid of him, shouldn't they? Why isn't Daniel Ricciardo in that car?
Yeah, famously fickle.
Oh, I think I saw them on the John Peel stage. Yes, Jeff, I've stolen your joke again.
When your backup option is Harvard, I wouldn't say you'd be too disappointed with losing your F1 seat.
No,
Or,
do you know what though? I respect that the fact that because he's done Formula E. He clearly was doing Formula E as a way to try and keep his hand in if he should get the chance to come to Formula One. Came to Formula One, didn't work out for him. That's it. He doesn't want to scratch about carrying on like motor racing because he couldn't do what his original mission was.
It's a really good point. You know,
Yeah,
some
Nicholas
drivers are.
Latifi's just done the same. I think he's going to. Is it London Business School he's going
I
to?
think so, yeah.
Yeah, some people are just resigned to carrying on and on and on and never achieving the same level of success. Your Nick Heifelds, your, in a sense, Felipe Massa, he was no good in Formula E.
As much as I hate to say it, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, that's where it's paid off. You were never getting the 41-year-old Nick De Vries on the podium at the 2036 Antarctic Grand Prix, were you? You know?
But I mean, aside from that, the car is an absolute. It's a shed built by somebody who's never even seen a shed.
I mean, yeah, it isn't compared to the other cars, but the midfield now is so tight in Formula One.
Yeah.
There's realistically no like bad cars. It's not like the bad Williams. Remember the bad Williams, which had the stalling issue, and if a crosswind hit it the wrong way, it was in the barriers. It's just slow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not in the right hands either. I think it's in half a right hand with Yuki Tsunoda. Clearly had a good first few races. But
Ooh,
if the
is
car's
Daniel
not...
Ricciardo shade already.
yeah. Yeah, I mean the Ashes is over now. I no longer need to piss off most of the Australian listeners of this podcast.
Can we just hang on until after the Women's World Cup semi-final on Wednesday morning?
Sure. I mean, you know, if you want to wait and put this out on Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, we'll still wind any of the Aussies up that are listening to it before the match, which I am sure England will bottle.
Participate in.
Yeah.
as will Australia, in a football match, which I'm sure will be one of the many great football matches which take place this year between two teams. Anyway, off the fence, Daniel Ricciardo, what a prick. Don't mean that.
I mean, he said that the last two races were like his pre-season testing. Now he's on a fitness program, and by the time the Dutch Grand Prix rolls around in a couple of weeks' time, he'll be race fit.
Yeah, I think it's going well for Daniel Ricciardo, and if he hadn't have just gone wide a little bit in qualifying and had that lap disallowed, he'd have beaten Yuki Tsunoda in his second race.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see what he can do with an absolute dog of a car, and then it'll also give us an idea of what's Tsunoda like.
Yeah.
Do you know what though? It kind of doesn't, does it? Because we still don't really know what Ricciardo we've got.
I mean, if we get a good Ricciardo and a good Tsunoda, all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, okay. If Ricciardo isn't any good, there's the excuse of, well, he's been out for half a year and he's just been parachuted in, and what's he meant to do?
Car's no good.
Yeah.
I think there'd be excuses to save us blushes, but realistically, he has to beat Tsunoda.
Yeah.
You know, to stay in Formula One. No, that's kind of it. I think if he finishes ahead of Tsunoda, now from now over the course of the season, he will still be in some sort of Formula One car next year.
Yeah.
I get the feeling it'll be in the whatever the Red Bull second team is called.
If they're going to give them a decent car as well, you know, because I mean, realistically, we don't know what the other teams are going to make up for next year in the realms of performance. But you've got to think that this year's Red Bull next year would still be a solid midfield car.
Yeah,
you would hope so.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the gap that it's got over every other car on the grid.
That could be the second car because we don't even know how big that gap actually is.
Yeah.
You know, can we see anyone catching Red Bull this year? No. Can we see anyone catching this year's Red Bull car next year? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the off-season is such a random organizer sometimes that you never know what's going to catch up and what's going to be a pile of crap. The biggest swing we've seen up and down probably of recent years was when Ferrari went from 2019 being race winners to, what was it, 6th, 7th in the championship in 2020? That was all down to secret shenanigans. That sort of swing is what I'd expect if this year's Red Bull ended up on the grid with the worst team next year. You know, Haas would bite their... Well, that's not a term, is it? Bite their hand off. They'd bite their own hand off to get next year's Ferrari's car. Essentially, that's what I'm saying. If they had Ferrari's car next year, they'd go for it. They'd love it. So, and you'd probably see Haas going up the grid.
Well, look what happened to Force India. Not Force India, whatever they were called at the time.
Racing Point.
Racing Point, yeah. When they got the hand-me-down Mercedes.
Yeah, and all they got was the drawings. They didn't even get shoveling and everyone in with it, did they?
Nope.
They just got the drawings, and all of a sudden they're the third best team on the grid.
I suppose that would be the thing for AlphaTauri, isn't it? They wouldn't just have a car; they would have knowledge of how to set it up.
And that would, in essence, save Yuki Tsunoda's career. Because I think if Daniel Ricciardo does end up beating Yuki Tsunoda this year, I don't think that's him necessarily done. I think he might get one more year before
he's got
in Liam Lawson.
Hasn't he? He's just signed a contract for next year.
Oh, is it?
He has,
sure
yeah.
he has.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Pretty certain.
So then you've got to look at what is the point of Yuki Tsunoda in Formula One, you know, with an asterisk of on the Red Bull team, you know, because he's not going to get the 2025 drive. We know he's not getting 2024. He's not going to get the 2025 drive because if Perez is still any good next year, then he'll lose it to Daniel Ricciardo potentially. So what's the final landing point for Yuki? Because he's clearly not going to be showing good enough results to step up in the Red Bull unless that car next year is the second best team on the grid and he's consistently putting in third, fourth, fifth above your Hamiltons, Leclerc's, Alonso's, etc.
Aston Martin.
Yeah.
That is my theory, because rumour has it, we're doing silly season, aren't we? Rumour has it, when Honda come back, they're going with Aston Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's confirmed, isn't it?
2026, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it is confirmed, then don't forget, Tsunoda is a Honda product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why he's in that car at the moment, really, isn't it?
I
That's why
think
came through.
And
he
Honda,
has to do something then, because
Honda are still giving Red Bull support with the Red Bull powertrain. They're not fully making their own until 2026 when it's a rebadged Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he has to do something though, because I don't think right now, although he's doing a reasonable job as a Formula One driver, I don't think he's doing enough between now and 2026, like 3 years, to lay claim to, to be the chosen son of Honda.
Yeah.
Who
Who
else have they got though? Because I mean, Honda always want a Japanese driver.
Yeah.
Ayumu Iwasa.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Red Bull own him.
Oh, Red Bull owns Tsunoda.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, Iwasa would be like the next of the Japanese drivers, but
After that, I mean, this might be the Western way of looking at it, but I don't see anyone in F2 or F3.
And Super Formula is all about Liam Lawson.
it is.
Yeah.
Super Formula's not a serious thing anyway, is it really, if we're all honest?
It's a serious thing if you've just missed out on the Red Bull seat.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as like a stepping stone to Formula One, that's not a stepping stone. That's a pretty big jump, and you've got to do like a double jump and glide.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're looking at Super Formula as an equivalent of an F2 or even an F3 to get your next driver in, unless there's something we're really missing out on, which is a huge story. And at the moment, like Paul says, that's Liam Lawson, isn't it?
Mm.
He's got a special
And
set
even
of skills.
Liam Lawson.
Oh, don't. all fucking June and July, I was going, come on, just take Ricciardo. Don't put Liam Lawson in the bloody seat. And luckily they announced Ricciardo whilst I was down with my dad on the island. And
I don't think Red Bull can have an awful lot of faith in Liam Lawson, because I don't think you sign Tsunoda now if you do.
Yeah.
Unless you have a load of faith in Daniel Ricciardo replacing Perez.
Mm.
And I think they might, though.
Yeah, that does feel like the natural.
That's the thing. I mean, Ricciardo's only on loan until the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Technically, his team is still Red Bull. But when it comes down to it, it's Helmut Marko that decides, one, who's employed, and two, which car they're going to sit in.
Yep.
And
I think
that I think is the case for all the other series as well.
I think the thing to remember is, and often like Formula One fans seem to have like a bit of like chosen amnesia for certain things. Like he had 2 bad years in McLaren. He didn't get on with that car. Got smashed by Lando. That is, and I think actually this year, although like Piastri's looking really good anyway. But it almost doesn't seem as bad, I don't think, him getting smashed by Lando, because he's every single race he's looking more and more like a future world champion. The thing I sort of look at with Ricciardo is to take away McLaren and go, right, well, without that move to McLaren, every single season Daniel Ricciardo has been in Formula One, he's been a better driver than Perez. There's not one time where Perez has looked like a better Formula One driver than Daniel Ricciardo up to McLaren.
Oh, I don't know.
So
I don't know. Ricardo's first season at Renault.
Well, I was thinking the second season at Renault.
I don't.
But even then, he got better. He did get better at Renault.
But he was still the clear team leader in that car.
Yeah.
And he was still doing the best of a bad job, and then got podiums and stuff towards the end of it.
Mm.
I would never argue that he shouldn't have left Red Bull. That he should have stayed in Red Bull. He essentially did made the same mistake Fernando Alonso made.
Which time?
Well, when Fernando Alonso lost to Lewis Hamilton, I think Fernando should have stayed in McLaren, and I think I'll probably get shouted at for this as well. I think Fernando would have beaten Lewis the next year in that car.
Yeah, but Fernando couldn't have stayed, could he? Because of the whole Spygate thing, and
I'm putting that in the mistake.
Even though Fernando wasn't involved, because it's a major Formula One controversy ending in gate, happening to a team that Fernando is driving for, but he still had nothing to do with it.
I think that's fair. I think that's. But
so the show this week is brought to you not only by Lazy Spa but also Teflon.
I mean, to be fair, the Spygate thing, I don't think Fernando had anything to do with the Spygate thing. I think it was more of a case of he felt he was being fucked by Ron Dennis, and he said, "If you don't stop fucking me, I'm gonna fuck you with Spygate."
That BBC series on Spygate is very good because it doesn't skirt around the edges of what Fernando might and might not have known, and what emails he might have sent to Pedro de la Rosa and so on and so forth. But he did that interview with Andrew Benson a couple of weeks ago on the Hungarian Grand Prix in 2007, which apparently he's never said anything about in an interview, which I didn't know about. Where he basically said, "I've been hard done by, and that's that. Move on." You go, well, okay, but it wasn't just that, was it, Fernando? There's more to this, isn't there? But they didn't explore it, which is a shame. I don't know.
I think the thing is, I think you'd have to be pretty daft to not think that the Lewis Hamilton train of him coming in as this fucking young kid, which looked amazing in junior formulas, the fact that he's a rookie up against a multiple time world champion, and he could win the championship in his first year. I think you'd have to be an idiot to not think that Ron Dennis was made Lewis Hamilton a preferred driver in that scenario.
I mean, we did used to joke back when we started 8 long years ago that Ron Dennis actually grew Lewis Hamilton in a test tube.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think the idea, and I'll be dead honest. I simply don't believe that Lewis Hamilton, as a rookie, in equal machinery, could challenge Fernando Alonso. I don't believe that's possible. Don't get me wrong, I think he'd annoy him, and he's more than good enough to annoy him. But in his first year in Formula One, if the DAC isn't stacked in his favor within that team, no way does Lewis run Fernando like he did there. And I think it shows, like, as we anyone that read the mechanic, the Fernando Alonso was like giving cash bonuses to his side of the garage because he believed that McLaren were trying to were favouring Lewis, so he was trying to keep his garage his garage.
Yeah, that comes up in that Spygate podcast as well.
Yeah, so I don't believe that you don't do. I don't think you do that just out of paranoia.
Well, hopefully, if things fall into place, we might be getting Mark Priestley on the show at some point in the not too distant. So
would be incredible. My favorite biography of all time. Love it.
All being well, we're just trying to work out a date when he's free. But yeah, there's an exclusive for you. We'll,
And if you are listening to this, Mark, I promise I'm not saying that just to try and butter you up for coming on the podcast. I absolutely adored that book. It was amazing.
and of course you need to do the return of Who's a Total Shunt for that night.
Yes.
Or if you can't, I'll do who the bloody hell's that then?
Have I mentioned how much I love Lazy Spa hot tubs?
Frequently. Right.
My garden is really empty out there. If
To be
only
fair,
there was a solution.
I half think if we're going to get sponsored by Lazy Spa, we need to also be sponsored by like our nearest energy facility.
Well, I'm afraid to say we're going to have to go all anonymous because it's Alfa Romeo next.
Oh, God. How are they above Alpha Tauri? Oh, Nick DeFries, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've joked in the past, anonymous Sauber. And that was when they weren't scoring points. They're now scoring points, and they are still fucking anonymous.
I can't name one standout performance from either of them this year.
No.
I should be able to, because Joe had one good race, didn't he?
The only notable thing that I can actually say about Alfa Romeo this year, and it's the only thing that I've noticed, is Valtteri Bottas got lapped by Lewis Hamilton in the Miami Grand Prix this year at the same corner that Lewis lapped him in last year's Miami Grand Prix.
Does that
It's
come
a thriller.
That's
courtesy of Sean?
useless.
No, that is one that is all me. That is all mine.
That is a thoroughly useless piece of information.
Which about sums up Alfa Romeo this year. Audi to be. No, they're going to be Audi in 3 years' time, but they're not going to be Alfa Romeo next year.
No, rumor has it Haas are going to be Alfa Romeo next year.
Mm.
So we could see the Sauber name return to the grid temporarily.
Possibly. I
Yay.
don't
Maybe.
think
2
another
years.
title sponsor has been forthcoming yet, but I imagine they'll be
I mean,
on the lookout.
yeah, I mean they've got the stake sponsorship,
Mm.
which is a cryptocurrency casino.
Is that the thing with the green?
Oh no, that's
left-
Kick. That's the
Kick.
that's the new
Okay.
streaming service that isn't Twitch.
Sure.
So,
That's the Vimeo of streaming services, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, man. Mastodon. MK Dons. I'm trying to think of other less, slightly crapper versions. For F1's sake. No, not going to say. Anyway, so, I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
WTF?
do.
What are you talking about?
And it's not fair. You've got missed Apex as well.
But yeah, can we say anything notable about Alfa Romeo? We've got a past his sell-by date, Valtteri Bottas, who has actually said this week, yeah, it makes perfect sense for me to hang on and stick around for the Audi transition and still be here.
What?
He's been posting
But
pictures on
why?
Instagram of him having lots of beer this week.
Oh, has he now got a beer instead of as well as a gin?
Yes, he's at one of these events where you get all the beers on a wooden paddle.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You stop offending my culture.
It didn't look like a proper, like, normal person beer festival, though. It was obviously some kind of artisanal rich person beer festival.
If you can name the hops and then spell them after 8 of those, then you're not doing it right.
Has any like ex top F1 driver which looked set to fall out of the sport but caught themselves on the way down been as lackluster as Valtteri Bottas?
The last half of
Jack.
the last half of Kimi.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. When he came back, it wasn't like that. This just seems to be a complete fall into obscurity.
Well, I mean, the last half season, not the last half of Kimi's career. But yeah, you're right with Jack. The bouncing around various teams.
Mm-hmm.
BAR, Benetton, Sauber.
I'm getting a theme here.
Yeah, that was pretty grim. The Villeneuve return was grim.
Jean
but-
Alesi. You know, he was bigged up as he's going to be huge. He's going to be massive.
He's going to be. Was he ever?
He won one race,
Uh-huh.
and then went.
But
to crap.
that's the thing. Villeneuve, I'll give you, but he was like never, like you said, he was never a top line driver. You know, he was never in the top car at the time. You know, he was never not like Bottas was.
What Villeneuve wasn't in the best car when he won the world
Alesi.
He
championship.
won a world championship.
No, I said I meant a Lacey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in one of the worst Ferraris, wasn't he?
Yeah, because the only other person I can think that's probably the Bottas mold is Barrichello, you know, being like subservient to Schumacher for all that time, then falling down. But he's still in his on his way out of Formula One was, you know, in Williams was, you know, he was being pretty competitive, wasn't he? You could argue that he was kind of pushed out of Formula One, and there was probably worse drivers on the worst drivers on the grid when he went.
What
He
about?
won 2 in Brawn, didn't he? He won 2 races.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about
And you wouldn't have said
Schumacher?
that.
His last couple of years with Mercedes.
Mm.
I think that's better than we might have thought it was. If we could be bothered to go back and watch the entire seasons, which obviously we're not going to be, because at the time we didn't think Nico Rosberg was just Nico Rosberg.
True.
He wasn't Nico Rosberg that
Future
was going
world champion.
toe-to-toe, and going toe-to-toe with Lewis Hamilton. So that's why I think Schumacher might have been in a tougher position there than we thought he was.
I put Frentzen at the bottom of that category as well, because I mean he was in with a shout of winning the title in Jordan.
Yeah, crazy, yeah.
And then he just descended into the complete abyss. Actually, was in Sauber as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. He
Think
got a
that-
podium in the Sauber.
When they weren't as anonymous.
No, I think everyone else fucked up. I'm almost certain it was a USA Grand Prix where 7 finished, and it wasn't the wacky one either, was it? Yeah, he got 3rd, and it's one of those moments where I think the Ferraris came 1-2. They're up ready to go on the podium. They turned around and went, "Oh, you're right, Heinz. Who finished 3rd? No, really, who? No, really, who? Fuck off."
But yeah, I mean, Bottas is not the driver he was. And as bad as Sauber are, they're not the team they used to be. BMW really screwed them over.
Yes,
Mm.
And
then
they were becoming a top team.
Mm.
yeah, and then you get the era of the 3 drivers.
Oh, God.
And who owns it? And Marcus Ericsson's dad's mates are putting the money in, and what the hell's going on? And Alfa Romeo, right, okay, so it's gonna, you know, all this Ferrari Fiat Group money, it's gonna sort things out, and they've just been utterly bland. And Bottas just has appeared to have lost all talent, and I think Zhou Guanyu is the more talented of the 2 drivers at the moment.
Bottas strikes me as a guy that's given up.
Yeah.
But he's making all the noises to say that he's not, which I
Which
don't
is
get.
worrying.
Yeah.
Wait, this is you as well, okay. God. I thought this was you as shit. Yeah, there's no. What is the point of a Valtteri Bottas right now? I said this a few weeks ago, didn't I? It feels harsh, but I don't see his reason in Formula One. He's not going to win a race. He won't get another podium, but for, you know, a McLaren style turnaround for that AlphaTauri, and even then, it's unlikely. He's being outraced by a person who arguably probably didn't do enough to get his F1 seat in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see the point of a Valtteri Bottas right now. And you know, I don't think he's a listener, so I don't think I will apologise this time. But I tell you what is lovely, coffee and triathlons. So go do that. Give Teo Porcher the seat. Give Sainz a seat in 2026.
I think that's
Enjoy
what
your
they need.
beers.
Yeah, they're going to need it's all well and good saying, oh well, he's an he's an experienced driver, but it doesn't. At what point does that stop mattering if if they're not
They're not
doing
getting
the
anything
bit?
for it,
Yeah.
are they?
So it's especially for a team that's looking to move up the grid as well. They want to be winning races, don't they? In 3 years.
Hmm.
And I can't see that happening on their current trajectory. Audi will have to bring something spectacular to the party.
Yes, I mean I think it's possible. I think if that's if this season has taught me anything, which I know we'll talk about McLaren before, it's that massive swings can happen.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the next team, even though it doesn't show it on the actual running order, but the massive swing for Williams, because from so far off the pace to almost regularly in Q3,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and getting points finishes. All right, they've only had 3 races where they've been in the points this season. They've had some absolutely dire runs of luck.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, the Belgian Grand Prix. I know it didn't work out this way, in the end, but there was like legitimate pundits that were looking at the times from testing, going, "Can Albon get pole?"
Mm.
That there was a legitimate thing of like, where's the Williams going to end up?
Yeah.
And I think we're coming towards some circuits where the speed of that car, because even at the worst, Williams always had a car that was quick in a straight line, but they're now actually managing to get it together to be a little bit quicker in the corners. And we're coming up to a few circuits where speed matters. I mean, Monza will be very interesting, because that is just stick your foot down and see you at the other end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Williams needing to get a double points finish there, isn't it? To keep them 7th, 8th, 9th.
Yeah, and I think Sargent has improved so much since the start of this season. I know he's getting more track miles in older cars, which is helping a great deal. And Williams themselves have said
it worked for Lance Stroll.
I mean, Williams themselves have said it's all Piastri's fault that he's there. They brought him in a year too soon.
Yeah,
because they didn't have anyone else that could take the seat that was going to be Piastri's, because there was no way they could keep Latifi on.
Yeah, this is the thing with Sargent. He's got to start. He's got to be there next year because he has improved, but they can't make the same mistake they made with Latifi by giving him a 3rd year just to dip your toe in the water, sort of thing. If he isn't matching Albon in a couple of years' time, I know Albon's a lot better than he deserves in that Williams at the moment.
I don't think Albon will be in that Williams in a couple of years' time.
No, he could very well. He could be the Alonso replacement at Aston Martin. He could be one of those up there
in 3085.
When Alonso makes his 700th return to Renault or whatever they're called then.
It's just the head in the jar like in Futurama. In the car. I don't know. I think they can't. If Logan Sargent doesn't pick up seriously in the next year and a half, I'm looking this way ahead, but I don't think they can give him the 3rd chance, the 3rd year.
Alex Palou is being linked with Williams, which would be interesting. I mean, he's a very complicated contract situation anyway.
Alex Palou is being linked with any
Not
team,
McLaren.
any team apart from McLaren that's got a good legal team. So, an explainer for this one. So, this time last year, McLaren Indy said they'd signed Alex Palou for the 2023 season, and he was going to be their F1 test driver and reserve driver on weekends where F1 and Indy weren't racing at the same time. This didn't happen because Chip Ganassi said, hang on, he's got a contract with us for next year.
This was like a couple of weeks before the whole Piastri situation, wasn't it? It was very similar situation.
It was when McLaren were going around signing every single driver known to mankind.
That must have left him with a chip on his shoulder. I apologise.
Regret nothing. That's my way of those jokes. So, Alex Palou is currently leading the IndyCar Championship.
Yes.
And has now said he's not going to be driving for McLaren next year.
Even though he's got a contract.
Even though he's contracted with them. To which Zach Brown has said, hang on a minute. And Palou has even sacked his management, who negotiated this contract that he's got with McLaren for next year. So this now leaves McLaren without a reserve driver in the F1 team. He had a get-out clause in the McLaren contract if he got a Formula One deal with any team on the grid before, I think it was the 1st of July. It was either the 1st or the 31st of July. Whichever it was sometime in July, and seeing as we're in August, that's obviously not happened.
So you're losing Alex Palou at McLaren. There's a potential seat that one day might pop up for him at Williams, even though, would you go from being IndyCar champion to 8th best team in F1 or 7th best team, depending when things shake out with Haas? I don't know.
I don't know, but would you go from IndyCar champion to driving a Williams? Didn't work badly for Jacques before everything went to shit.
No.
You know, or the Nardi.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it should have gone well for Montoya.
It's closer to the Zanardi situation, going from IndyCar champion to the Williams. Oh God.
Do Williams just have a special IndyCar passport desk somewhere at like
possibly?
Yeah.
I think that might have been a Frank thing, you know. Because I know even before Montoya came to Formula One, like I remember, like Frank gushing over him a lot.
Yeah, it's quite savvy, isn't it? People have got their eye on the ball on either rich kids or the Formula 3000 and all that, and he spent his time looking at America. It worked for him twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Massa, you could argue, because Massa, when he was sacked from Ferrari, he was briefly looking at IndyCar over there and just going, sorry, I'll go to IndyCar before he went over to Williams. So, you know, it's even then.
Maybe that's why Esteban Gutierrez started sniffing around IndyCar, so that Williams would take some kind of interest in him. That didn't work.
No.
I think Esteban Gutierrez started sniffing around IndyCar because Esteban Gutierrez.
Is he an IMSA now? Is that where he is?
I think he is, yeah. I think he's in one of the series where they do more points than just for the top 10. So he's in a happy place now.
Yeah. Did you once finish 16th in the F1 World Championship? Come through this door. It's called IndyCar.
But going back to Williams, obviously they are getting the structure in place. They're arguing over the capital expenditure spending allowance because everything that they've got there is 10 to 15 years out of date.
That's why their floor's flat.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't do anything but make a flat floor because they can't test it properly. And if they get allowed to spend the money, then you know we could see Williams fighting for top fives again.
Yeah,
you know I'm not going to say they'll come back and it'll be the Williams of the 80s and 90s. No, it won't. But it'll be the Williams of the BMW era.
Yeah.
And
love to have known what Paddy Lowe. I'd love to just speak to Paddy Lowe and see what happened in that. How long was he there? Just over a year.
I don't think it was even quite that, was it?
I'd love to know what happened there.
It was long enough to know that building a Formula One car is very complicated.
But the top and bottom of it is that guy didn't forget to do his job in 12 months.
No. Very few people forget things that quickly.
Yeah.
especially not when you've taken the secrets from the biggest team.
Yeah, I know. I was. I said all along through that point on the show. I think I think Claire Williams got away with an awful lot.
Yeah.
In that thing, I think she got away with criticism that, like, if she'd have been a football manager, like, she'd have been like burned at the stake for what was going on in that team. I never really understood why she never got the criticism she deserved, which was essentially destroying Williams.
There was that great Peter Windsor article on how they picked the wrong child. It should have been Jonathan Williams.
I've never read that. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it's from when things started to go absolute tits up. Let's say
he rarely gets anything wrong, Peter Windsor. He's kind of an F1 oracle.
Yeah. His F2 commentary in the pandemic year, when they couldn't bring in all the sort of the bigger names that they tended to, they started skipping around with people like Matt Gallagher. Alice Powell is very good.
Friend of the show.
Yeah. Alice Powell, very good. They did occasionally get Alex Brundle, and now he's more permanent. But Peter Windsor was brilliant because you'd go, wow, and what a stunning overtake from Dan Ticktum on Sonoda. What do you think of that, Peter? Well, I remember in the 1957 race at Aintree, old William Chappingham III overtook Alex Jakes going, yeah, so lap 6. It was just entertaining. It was very good.
My Sunday morning after every race is watching his like race review on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's my Sunday morning Monday morning. Sorry, before I go to work.
Yeah.
Man's just usually sat on the sofa in a great deal of regret, thinking, "Oh, why didn't I win the lottery this weekend? Or why haven't I had the idea that's going to make me a millionaire?" But yeah, Williams definitely a team on the up. Be interesting to see how the second half of the season goes. There are more upgrades to come on the card, they've said. So we could get to see a few more points finishes. I really hope so. We need double points finishes.
Yeah,
you've got to get Sargent in the points somewhere. Right, Haas. Same amount of points as Williams, but due to better finishing positions, they get classified 7th because they've had 4 points finishes.
Oof.
Or had the points in 4 races. I never know what to make of Haas.
No.
At any given point. They're still on the grid. They're the last of the independents, I guess. Because they certainly don't have the same amount of money behind them that Williams do now, with the Doralton ownership. And, we take the piss out of Ferrari lurching from crisis to crisis, but I think Haas actually do it more.
I don't know if they do it more. I think they're just in a permanent state of some sort of crisis.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Really good way of putting it.
Yeah, there's nothing major going on with them at the moment, so, are they going to get a piano on the head by the time we get to Holland?
Gunter's been whinging in the last week or so about expanding the number of teams on the grid.
Well, it dilutes the pot, doesn't it?
It does.
It takes money away, and every penny counts, and by all accounts, they're the team with the smallest budget on the grid now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they cease to be the only American team, then that particularly would impact them, I imagine.
I think it's really bad.
Especially if the other team is Andretti, because who's every American F1 fan or motor racing fan gonna get behind?
Yeah.
But I think it's really bad, this whole teams blocking new teams coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's anti-competitive. It's anti-fan. It's ultimate selfishness, because every other aspect of the sport benefits.
Yeah, if you'd said to all the teams back in 2017, pre-Drive to Survive, okay, your teams are worth 150 million. The prize pot is 600 million. Do you want an 11th team? And they all went, nah. If you said to them now, okay, your team's now worth 600 million. Do you want to? You can have your team's being worth 4 times as much, but you have to take an 11th team. They go, oh, we'll take a 12th, take a 13th at that point, and we'll share.
Yeah.
But no, again, they're now worth 3-4 times as much as they were pre-Drive to Survive, and they're going, no.
Well, that's what they're worried about, isn't it? It's less about the pot being divided more, and it's more about the actual stake of a Formula One team being worth less because there's more of them.
You knock 60 million off the second Andretti get through the door.
Yeah,
Gunther Steiner made a really good point. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Gunther Steiner made a really good point on Sunday Brunch, where he said,
This is the same show that had Corey Taylor making pom poms the other week. So
Yes.
What?
Yes.
We talking about the same Corey Taylor
Yes.
here?
yes,
Yes. He was there making pom poms with, was it Jennifer Allison?
yeah.
It was a very weird lineup.
There goes the mic.
I mean, a former bandmate of mine used to be their olive correspondent.
He's on an episode of QI, isn't he?
Oh, he's
Corey
he's
Taylor.
brilliant on it. He is absolutely amazing on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in the end series. The episode was
The
called
Noise
Noise.
series. I think it was the Noise
Noise,
episode.
Yeah. Gunther Steiner was sat there between. I think he's on with Enter Shikari, which was surreal enough. They're going, yeah, you got a new
Amazing.
album out, yeah, you got a book out, yeah. Why are we here? I don't know. Well, it's weird. he made a really good point of the fact that there's room for an 11th team, and everyone knows it. But we're now in a position where we're fighting for survival, whilst being worth 2 or 3 times much as we were when we knew we were fighting for survival. And some teams are now just kidding themselves. But I mean, I know that he tells it as it is. But I think even then, if you said to Gunther Steiner, do you fancy 20, 30, 40 million less for your team? They'll still say no. It's just how it is.
I think it's stupid as well. Even on the even on the business front of it, I think it's stupid because the minute if you get Andretti on the grid, you get more American eyes to Formula One. I think it doesn't take and you know Andretti's a global brand anyway. I don't think it takes a huge amount of time until Andretti pays for itself.
Yeah.
I'm much more interested to see if Andretti could be successful than I am every year to see how much Ferrari cannot be successful.
Yeah, and you look at a team like Haas. Do you sit there look at Haas going, there's our American team?
No, they're the most un-American thing I've ever seen.
The most American they were was their first year. After that, they were just they were team Beardy Energy. They were team dodgy Russian oil. They're now team. Oh, sod it, we'll get those two back.
Yeah,
there's no core identity to Haas apart from their main guy, Gunther Steiner. If he wasn't at the team, if you ended up with a Fred Vasseur or a Mario Mattiacci, whatever his name is, really boring sort of personalities, should I say, even if they're not boring conversationalists, the ones who don't bring a huge amount of charisma, then Haas wouldn't be marketable whatsoever. Again, they're butt saved by Gunther Steiner being a bit sweary.
That's the thing.
He's stopped them from being porridge.
But you're right.
Now I'm going to get
marketing.
now I'm going to get whinged at in the same way that everyone had a go at me about broccoli a few months back.
But they are the worst marketed product in the world. You've got 3 American Grand Prix you've got 3 American Grand Prix now. There was an American driver going for grabs, which they could have tried to get in their team instead. Their car is fucking grey and white.
Their best-selling T-shirt is one of the team principal.
But how is their car not got a massive stars and stripes across the side of it?
Well, it's the Haas corporate colours, isn't it? Because it's Haas Automotive Engineering or Automechanical Engineering. It's in their corporate. It's in their
you can
corporate
have that within
colours.
the livery without it being the entire livery.
But I mean, even in NASCAR, Haas aren't fuck yeah Freedom Eagle.
Yeah, but that does exist in NASCAR.
Because
Some other team has
NASCAR
that.
They're in
is-
America.
Yeah,
They're in
Freedom
America. Like the whole idea of doing it is because you are
You're
the
showing it to the
American
rest of the
team
world, aren't you?
in a world championship. Yeah, I mean, if I was doing the logo, doing the livery for that car, it would essentially just be a massive Star Spangled Banner, and then if there was to settle the like the automotive side of it, 3 of the stripes going down the side of the car would be in the Haas the Haas colors. That's what their car should be. I don't understand them. They're the team with the least energy in the world.
I'd make it a left-hand drive.
Yes, 100%.
Have fuck yeah writ large across the rear wing.
No, not across the rear wing. That's when you look inside the car. That's on the accelerator, and the brakes got pussy written on it.
I mean, you're saying the team with the least energy. I mean, a couple of years ago with the black and gold sponsor, that was the least energy because you couldn't find it in the shops.
That's fair. To be fair, since the company's gone down, it's in much more places. Weirdly enough.
I'm reading the book. I say I'm reading. I don't read. I'm listening to the book at the moment, the Rich Energy book, and I stopped it because I'm listening to the book of someone, which I'm to in a minute. But I've got to about an hour and what have I got? An hour and 47 minutes in. There's 7 hours left.
Can I just point out the authors do listen to this show?
Oh, firstly, it's Alania and I will say Elizabeth.
Yes.
Really sorry about that. Yeah, firstly, it's really good, but I don't know how much corruption you're going to fit in the next 7 hours because again, the lawyer's involved. It's a little dodgy. Little dodgy. I'm also listening for it because I just know at some point Charlie Simpson from Busted and Fight Star is going to come up in conversation in it, and I'm dreading that. I will get to that point and move on from that bit in the story. But yeah, that's all I'm waiting for.
It's always fun until Busted turn up.
Oi, 27 sweet days until I see them.
That's nice. Anyway.
If Taylor Swift becomes the director of Rich Energy, then I'll be truly gutted, frankly. That's where it's all going at the moment. Anyway, sorry, yeah, Haas.
Right, yeah. So Haas, yeah, where do they fit in? I mean, we said this about Alfa Romeo as well, but
they're the 5th best team in qualifying.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? The car's got a turn of speed because over one lap, it's a quick car. They just need to work out how to make it do it over like a few more.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently they just can't keep the tires alive. And
which is probably why they're doing
issue.
really well in qualifying because they're heating the tires up really quickly and making them work for a single lap. I don't know. To me, Haas seemed to be that in the permanent rebuilding stage. It's like you get halfway through the year and you're like, oh well, it's time to call it a day on this car and we'll focus on next year. And it's a loop that they seem to be in.
Yeah, because there's always, we know what the issues are and we're going to correct them for next year. And then next year rolls round and it's, we didn't actually predict that this was going to be the case. And
to be fair, let's give them a chance, actually, thinking about it, because it's been a while since Haas have had like a half-decent peddler, and I'd say 2 half-decent peddlers, to be perfectly honest now. It's always been like there's been a Grosjean sniffing around or something like that, ready to fling it in the wall at any given time. I think Hülkenberg is exactly what that car needed.
Yeah, I mean, Lee, this is where you eat humble pie, because you said that he was done, he was finished. There's no way you can come back from that long away from F1.
Yeah, I didn't think he could. I thought it was a stupid move at first. Don't get me wrong, I wanted it to work out for him, but I don't think on his return drives he showed anywhere near the form he showed since he's come back permanently.
You are much more complimentary of his co-driver,
What?
K-Mag.
K-Mag. Yeah, I don't understand where he's gone this year. Don't understand. Like he looked the part last year, didn't he?
Oh, I was referring back to about 5 years ago when I completely agreed with you and thought he was shit.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! Let's not try and confuse me into thinking that I did that 5 years ago.
I'm the nerdy bloke in The Simpsons with the glasses and the spots going, in episode 217.
The only reason I know 5 years ago must have been an actual thing is because I've got a 6-year-old son.
Yeah, Hulkenberg is that's the right fit for that team. They've never had two drivers who are definitely there. This is the closest they've come, and one of them, Sod's Law, has fallen away.
I think it's more the car that there seems to be something that he's just not getting on with. So I kind of have hope for him. He should get another year, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I think he's definitely done enough to deserve it, and unless another American suddenly turns up from,
I think this is it.
from
I think it's
nowhere.
more a case of there's no one else sort of hovering on the sidelines
No,
to take that seat off them.
Hasn't there been a rumor about him potentially replacing Lance Stroll for next year? Hulkenberg.
I wouldn't say it was a rumor. It was Will Buxton did a Fantasy 2024 grid, how he thinks it should look, and he said the best thing that Aston Martin could do would be get Hulk back.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad move. I know the silly season rumor was Nico going into the Red Bull garage, go to see Christian Horner. I know that was a thing at the last race.
that should have happened. It nearly happened a few years ago, didn't it? It was down to him
Yeah.
or Perez.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I'd
the
love to have
the
seen that.
rumor seems to be that Hulkenberg is being linked to replacing Alonso in 2025.
That seems like a weird thing because it's not like Hulk's going to be a spring chicken there.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Alonso will definitely be an old hen by then.
Oh, absolutely. But the that just seems like a really weird one.
They've
That-
just received 200 crates of just for men to shift.
Yeah, maybe. Alonso's going to be.
Can we not talk about middle-aged blokes dyeing their hair, please? Because I need to I need to do my roots.
I think
And
Alonso's
I
gonna
don't
be
want
a
it.
real pain.
I don't want to use just for men because I don't want it to go that shade of purple.
Yeah, I think Alonso's going to be a real pain when it comes to future contract talks because Alpine made that mistake. Alpine made the mistake of thinking he's too old, and it's obviously Alpine would be in a much better place than they are right now if they had Fernando Alonso still behind the wheel of one of their cars.
No, we'll be doing them next. Alpine have got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing with Alonso is, I mean, what time do we put on him? Because he doesn't seem to be losing any speed. It's obviously a completely different sport. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Ronnie O'Sullivan now. Is it you just?
Oh, I was
Yeah.
really
You'll
I was really hoping you were going to say Tom Brady.
No, it's just like how long can this guy continue doing what he's doing at the age he's doing, and I just don't see the form dropping off Alonso so quickly. I think we're going to see him driving Formula One cars at like a really obscure age compared to the rest of the grid.
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget Alonso is at about the average age of a Formula One driver, going back to the sort of 50s and 60s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the top and bottom of it is that he could absolutely win a world championship in the right car. I think that's the difference. He can still do it.
You take out the Red Bulls, he's currently leading the championship by 19 points against Hamilton.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, he would have won 4 of the first 5 races.
Yeah. Crazy.
For our American listeners, Ronnie O'Sullivan plays British colour pool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like pool but difficult.
And for our British listeners, Tom Brady plays health and safety rugby.
Well, no, he's Mr. Birmingham City now, isn't he?
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, I heard it described as that by somebody a while back. I just thought that was brilliant.
Just take it. No, you should have just owned that joke. Nobody would have thought about it, and they would have thought that was yours.
Well, no, as a fan of the NFL and the 49ers in general, I have to know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
Right.
And we're both looking forward to our 8 and 8 seasons coming up this year. Just
No, I'm saying 9 and 7.
Interesting.
I'm looking forward to my 8 and 8 season this year.
And
Everyone's
what
just saying
what about
to each other.
what about game 17, because it's now the
a very
17
good
game
point.
season rather than
8
16.
and 8 and 1. We'll draw one.
That's number one.
Yes. This is the equivalent of whenever I go back to my dad's and watch Super Bowl back on the Isle of Wight. I go, oh, did Klapinski do a touch in? Did he do a throwdown? I'm like, oh. How did the Miami Cheesecakes do against the Baltimore Flim Flams?
I remember hurting myself years and years ago when I was younger, and I sat in my flat. And me and my flatmate at the time, don't do this, kids. Took probably far too many of the prescription meds that I was given to deal with the pain I was in. And we watched Super Bowl, and you've never seen two people so high and so confused in your fucking life.
My mate Steve described it when we were at uni. I didn't get the sport at all, and we went over to our mates to watch it, and we were just lost. He said, "Oh man, that was an hour, but it was 4 hours." Yeah.
Were you on the same things as Lee was on?
Yeah. And why was Mr. Blobby doing the halftime show?
We're going to have to talk about Alpine now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Clear your diaries. This could take some time. I mean, there's been chaos since our last show.
Yeah.
I mean, firing your team principal and probably the longest serving member of your engineering staff in the middle of a Grand Prix weekend.
They did lose Oscar Piastri and Fernando Alonso under his watch.
Then sack him then. Don't get halfway through this season and deal with it.
That's fair, but I'm just saying this, as much as not Rob Fernley, sorry, what's his name?
Otmar Schaffnauer.
Otmar Schaffnauer. Yeah.
Isn't Bob Fernley dead?
Yes.
Yeah, rest in peace to Bob Fernley.
Yeah.
Seriously, rest in peace to
Well,
Bob Fernley.
actually, he didn't help either. But,
Well, don't say it, baby.
I just don't think I don't think Schnaff is innocent in all this.
I thought I was in pain. Lee, you've killed the new guy.
I knew an odd 80s cartoon reference again eventually.
Oh, I'm hurting now. So yes, Alpine can't hang on to the drivers, can't hang on to the team principal. Promoted someone who then proceeded to fire everyone. And now they're looking at bringing Bonotto in for some stability.
Yes.
Oh. God, I forgot about Bonotto bit.
You know, I'm just waiting for him to say something like, "Tonight, Matthew, we're gonna be Ferrari and walk through a bloody cloud of smoke."
Do you know what the hilarious thing about bringing Bonotto in is the fact that I think it was Renault's, the head of Renault, wasn't it, the other day, said that he wants Alpine to be the French Ferrari. And they are.
Well, they're going about it the bloody right way at the minute.
100% they're the French Ferrari. Not the way they want to be, but they're there. I'm so happy Fernando Alonso isn't there this year. I'm so happy.
So's Fernando Alonso.
Like
I imagine there's junior caterers who quit their work experience early going, "For that was a close miss."
Alonso must wake up every morning like giggling to himself.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get them. The top and bottom of it is Renault want.
I mean, did you see? I think
they want it to be an advertising project, and they're not willing to put the effort into a team.
I can't remember if it was Silverstone or Hungary. It was one of those two races when there was the Alpine double DNF. I mean, it's happening. It's happening a lot. I think they both DNF'd at Silverstone as well. But Ocon was being interviewed in the media pen after he'd gone out, and I think it was post race. And Alonso was stood about 5 feet behind him, and he just looked at the camera and did that wink and grin that he does.
He said something again about Andrew Benson thing where they're saying, you know, they're better off without. I can't remember what the quote was, and I'll libel someone, but he was going on about how Alpine still think it was the right decision to get rid of him. And Alonso may as well have said, "Well, you can shut the fuck up now, can't you? How's your team doing? Eh? Boo-hoo." It was that sort of thing. It was some real, smackdown stuff. And he's right. Alonso's right. What did Otmar gain from having to mouth off about things which had gone wrong in the past? And he did this a lot in his career. He did this back in 2018 back in 2018 when Ocon lost Max the race in Brazil because he unlapped himself and hit Max, and Max started playing pushy shovey. Otmar he was the Sky Sports on the pit wall sort of guy that weekend. He said, "I don't know what Max was doing. Max turned into him." But no. So it was Ocon's fault. And he has this thing where he doesn't forget history, and he carries on going, "I was right, I was right, I was right." He's always wrong. Yeah, he always gets it so wrong as well. The Piastri thing, we're going to take you to court. Okay, why? Because we're free next Thursday.
It does make you wonder if he was just under so much pressure at the time. He carried on like kicking that "we'll take you to court" can down the road to make it look like he was doing something to save his own blushes.
Well, the thing with the Renault group is they have been in absolute chaos, the whole group, for God knows how long. I mean, you just look, the chief exec at the time, Carlos Ghosn, smuggled out of his house in a cello case. When the madness like that starts at the very top.
Yeah.
But by the time it's trickled down to organisations underneath that, God knows what it's going to be like. And Alpine just seemed to be. I had a boss that used to describe it as all over the place as an old woman's shit.
That's a lovely thought.
Falling apart like a leper in a wind tunnel. Credit Charlie Brooker 2000 and something. The drivers, I tend to think, haven't been awful. Ocon, I think, has been quite good this year, or he's been as good as he probably should have been. Gasly's been a bit under par, but he is new to that team, and he seems to be only ever good in an AlphaTauri, it seems. But the whole package, the whole operation, is just really Ferrari-esque, and they can't do. They were coming into the season going, "We're going to finish third," and now they're going, "Oh shit, we 6."
I mean, what is it? This 100 race plan.
What is a 100 race plan? That's not a thing.
Yeah, they had a plan to be winning races within 100 Formula One races.
Right, that's not even like a set number of seasons, that is just a number they've plucked out of thin air.
Yeah, and Otmar was defending it the week before he got sacked, said, "Yep, we're on course for this 100 race plan." And then the new head of Alpine comes out and says, after he sacked him, and says, "Well, his 100 race plan was different to what the actual 100 race plan really is."
What was his
Christ.
100 race plan?
I've got no idea.
Survive after 12? The thing is, what I guess we're sort of saying right now is going to contradict slightly what you're going to hear later on in the show, which we recorded back on Thursday, where I think we're probably a bit more complimentary to Otmar. But at the same time, really, when we focus on his negatives now, they were real big negatives. He left Aston Martin. He left Aston Martin in a worse position than they are now. He's leaving Alpine in a worse position, but I genuinely think they will be in 6 months' time. They'll finish sixth because that's all they can do. McLaren are too good, and they're nowhere near as bad as your Haas and Alfa Romeos. But they can only look up from here because they've got their blunders out the way now, I think, with Alpine, and they will get there. And their drivers aren't bad. They might be underperforming. Ocon, I think, has been pretty good this season, all things considered. But I don't think they're a bad outfit.
I think they need a lead driver, though.
Yeah, they do. Ocon is
got the same
number
driver.
2, isn't
he? He is but I think they're both number 2s.
I don't think Gasly's even stepping up as a number 2 at the moment, is he?
No, probably not. But I just don't see what they do without some sort of direction. And when you again to go back on the Bash and Otmar train, they could have been going into this season with Oscar Piastri and Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
That could have been their driver lineup, and it would have been because I think Piastri and Lando Norris could arguably become the best driver lineup on the grid. Once Oscar's got a season under his belt as well.
Most equally consistent.
Yeah, and I think you could have said the same thing about Fernando and Oscar. You know, if I think there might have been had to have been some sort of finagling with Piastri saying, "Look, Fernando's only got a set amount of time here. You are going to be de facto number 2 to Fernando to keep everything fucking happy." But I think that would have worked out well for everybody in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they are shooting themselves in the foot at a Ferrari level.
They're missing.
Yeah. Do you think they'll sell the team?
That's it. Ferrari have tried to shoot themselves in the foot and hit Alpine by mistake.
Hang
Possibly.
on. How come we haven't even fucking mentioned the fact that out of nowhere Ryan Reynolds has bought a part of the team?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Him and Rob McElhenney and Michael B. Jordan have done him, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's odd.
Yeah, I mean, they now own 20% of Alpine, which is this. I said when it happened, is this starting to creep in that Renault are gradually divesting themselves of the team again, and they're going to pull out of Formula One? So I'm looking forward to Renault's return in 2028.
Possibly.
If they do the Wrexham thing, then what they're going to end up doing is buy George Russell and then only slightly improve, and it'll make great TV.
Oh, I mean, it's a nailed on certainty that they are going to have their own Disney Plus series.
Yeah. Didn't they say they were? Didn't they say they were already looking at it?
Is that a fact?
I don't want to say it's a fact yet. I want to say it's something I heard which could be fact.
Yeah, so
Who I heard it from.
Alpine fans that only have a Netflix subscription, you're not going to get to see a great deal of them on Drive to Survive next year.
I mean, knowing Alpine, this series will be put on Canal Plus. It'll be in black and white with Serge Gainsbourg and Ryan Reynolds with a little rolled up cigarette going.
Isn't he dead as well? Serge Gainsbourg, not Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Can I take this moment to say we're really sorry to the family of Bob Thurnley?
You don't know him.
Yeah. Great point.
Could have kept kittens.
You're still bitter because he screwed up Alonso's second attempt at Indy.
Oh yeah, he did.
I mean, I'm not happy about it. That was such a.
Are you willing to forgive him?
It was so. But when you consider like the Alonso first Indy run was so fucking exciting, and the second one was like, was it the second one where they didn't have a steering wheel for him?
Yeah, and they brought the wrong car, and they put the wrong gearbox in, and
yeah, so fuck him.
Oh, God.
Wow. Thank you, Jacques. I've got a lot of editing to do tonight anyway.
Lovely big PRS check in the post down in Montreal this weekend, isn't it?
Right, so we've done the back half of effectively the mid-season grid. And as it's gone on a little bit longer then, I thought we have something else to put in tonight. I reckon we do the top 5 teams next week.
Yeah, can do.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Because Ferrari's not going to be a quick one.
No, it's very true. We need to do that justice.
What's your whole week like next week?
It's Manx Grand Prix.
if we're just talking about Ferrari, sadder.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll do from McLaren to Red Bull next week, which will be the 80% happy part of the review.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, me and Kieran, mainly Kieran, had a chat with F1 journalist Adam Hay-Nichols last week, who has got a new book out, and it's the first biography of Charles Leclerc. We sat down and had a bit of a natter with him, and he had quite a few interesting things to say. So we will put that on for you now. Right, and as promised, joining us tonight, we have well-respected F1 journalist Adam Hay-Nichols. Adam, thank you so much for agreeing to join us this week. Pleasure to have you on. And you have been around the paddock for a few years, shall we say? We'll be polite. Any salacious gossip stories you want to share with us? Because this podcast does have a bit of notoriety for how do we best say it, Kieran? Getting under the lid?
Yeah, trying to find the story deeper than what's on the surface. How long?
Well, I mean, I mean, there's been lots of gossip over the years. I mean, I don't really know where to start, but I mean, I think, I probably can't just blurt it out. You probably have to, slightly fluff me first, really. Because pop out a name and I'll tell you.
Well, one to start with, and a subject very close to you, Charles Leclerc, who I believe you have a new book about.
Yes, yeah. So I've written this. I think it's the first biography of Charles Leclerc, or Charles Leclerc, or however you want to pronounce his name, and it's been a lot of fun to write and research. And the reason I wanted to write a book about him, aside from the fact that he's a very talented driver, is because I found him to be a very interesting character. I mean, he's a gentleman, which I think is pretty rare in sport, and certainly rare in Formula One these days. And I think what appealed to me about his story is that compared to a lot of drivers who sort of had these kind of blessed lives, and, there were quite a few drivers on the grid, as we all know, who have sort of billionaire fathers and stuff like that. And it's not that difficult to become a Formula One driver if you have access to unlimited, mileage in your own private test track. And there are a handful of drivers who've come up through the ranks based on talent alone. And Leclerc is one of them. Hamilton's obviously another. Verstappen, superbly talented, but, let's face it, his father was a Formula One driver. There's a hell of a lot of nepotism that goes on in the sport. And, Leclerc got there on his own. And along the way, he lost a few people very close to him, including his father and Jules Bianchi, of course. The reason that I think I chose to write his story, and I don't say this in the book, but I lost my father at a young age. And I think that that's really what sort of drew me to Charles. And I felt a sort of connection there. So I wanted to tell the story.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I think. Do you feel? Tell me if this is too much of a personal question. Do you feel it's good for you to explore other people who have been in that similar situation, like, and also to be in the public limelight as well?
I mean, it's an interesting thing I think Charles was sort of 18, which is, not as young. I mean, I was 7 when I lost my dad. But I mean, I think that when something like that happens, it obviously shapes you as a person. And there are a lot of interesting, particularly like a lot of rock stars lost their mothers at a young age, So, I mean, it does sort of drive you, I think, in terms of ambition, in terms of creativity, potentially. It certainly toughens you up. And, and I think Charles is a tough nut, and he's got this inner steel that's been forged in grief. And you take, the 2019 Belgian Grand Prix, which was the first race he won, and he won it the day after Antoine Hubert died, who was one of his best friends, and to have the race of his life the day after that, didn't make a mistake, absolutely driven. Is a hell of a sporting achievement. He basically took all this raw emotion and with furious alchemy turned it into unassailable pace. It was very impressive, and I think that's the mark of the man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, just watching from a distance the whole of that weekend, I was amazed he could even get in the car after seeing what happened the previous afternoon, and then just to go out and perform at that level. I mean, I still think that's the best race of his career. The best, far and away, the best performance that he's had. And just.
But when as I say, when you've already lost a couple of people close to you, and then something like that happens, and you can sort of take it in your stride because you've already experienced worse. And so you've got a bunch of other youngsters on the grid who've never been at a racetrack where somebody's died before. But he's had that. He wasn't at the track at Suzuka when Bianchi suffered his accident from which he later died. But he went through all of those raw emotions, and he understands the risk better than most of the other drivers on the grid.
Yeah, there's very few people, I guess, who are actually touched by, of course, the worst thing which could happen on a race weekend. And he had in 2019 am I right in thinking that Jules was his godfather?
Yeah, it was his godfather, but they weren't that different in age. I mean, he was a very young godfather, and they were like brothers, and they were very, very close, and to the point where Charles almost started to adopt his mannerisms and all the rest of it. I mean, they were like brothers.
It's interesting you say that in the book as well, that because there's a similarity between sort of the Bianchi family and the Leclerc family, and that the brothers were also racers, but they had to give up a bit of their time to let arguably the most talented one focus on their time on it. So they very much sort of grew up as arguably a mentor system as well between the two.
Yeah. I mean, both of his brothers, the whole family made sacrifices, obviously, but it was very clear that Charles was a sort of chosen one, not obviously in respect of love and all the rest of it, but the one that we're going to put the money behind.
Yeah. And
Lorenzo, who's the elder brother, he was good in karts and all the rest of it, but he stopped so that Charles could have the focus. And then Arthur as well, young Arthur, who's he's now racing in single seaters, but he was coming up through the ranks in karting, and he had to stop for several years so that all the resources could go behind Charles, because as we all know, when you're going through single seaters, even if you've got a bit of sponsorship and your manager's Nicholas Todd, it costs a huge amount of money, and despite the fact that he grew up in Monaco, which makes it sound like he's from a rich start in life, that's not actually the case. His family were very much from the sort of working population in Monaco. His maternal grandfather had quite a lot of money, but he would basically pay for like the hotels when he went racing, but he would never put the money into the racing, which is obviously the expensive bit. Right. So his father had to work all hours to pay for everything, really. But he only really came off once once Charles was, doing his thing and getting the results and being managed by Nicholas Todd and winning championships in, GP3 and F2.
Yeah.
Just to prove that everyone that lives in an offshore financial centre isn't a completely loaded tax exile, I just want to make that clear for a few people that have pointed that in our direction.
A spokesperson for the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean Kelly calls us a bunch of tax dodging pseudo rich people.
What's Charles like outside of the cockpit? Have you been? What is it like interacting with him, interviewing him, chatting to him? Is he quite a grounded person, or is he always sort of quite laser focused on racing?
Very polite. Is the first thing. Very polite, jolly, likes a joke. He's funny. Very good sense of humour, and he always has that slightly. I would describe it as that sort of sense in a very unarrogant way. He has that sort of sense about him that he knows something that you don't.
And as we found out at the weekend, quite a talented pianist as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically a lockdown hobby of his, is that he learned to play the piano, and he bought a baby Steinway, and that's one of his lockdown projects. He did a few things. In fact, he was during lockdown also he was doing some stuff for the Red Cross in Monaco and like driving an ambulance and stuff.
Oh wow!
Imagine getting in the back of an ambulance, and I think he was more actually delivering PPE, but even so, not bad ambulance driver.
Yeah, watching Charles Leclerc rock up, you're on the stretcher going, "Oh my word! Okay, I could get to hospital quick at least."
I mean, knowing his luck, it would have blown the engine as well, but never mind.
Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just about to make a joke about Ferrari pit strategy, but
actually, there's something else in the book which is really interesting. I have to say the book. I listened to the audiobook version of it, so in the book, but to me, in the 7-hour long podcast, essentially, you talk about how something which is, I guess, really poignant now, but isn't really poignant at the time. It's his first Monaco Grand Prix in F1 in 2019, and about how
2018 is his first Monaco Grand Prix.
Oh, sorry, my apologies, for Ferrari in 2019. The first Ferrari year in 2018, he had the crash, didn't he? His brakes failed, and
that's right. Yeah, ran into the Kiwi lad. What his name was
Hartley. Brendan Hartley. Yeah, well remembered in the Formula One circles.
Yes,
had a lot of experience.
Yeah.
In 2019, he started near the back of the grid because of a Ferrari error, essentially.
Yeah.
And these errors have sort of plagued him at various points, but it seems especially at Monaco. Do you think for drivers, and this is probably a simple answer to this question, do you think drivers get quite het up when something which isn't necessarily through their own doing, if you ignore the crash with Hulkenberg during the race, do you think drivers get quite het up when they don't succeed at somewhere which is quite special to them? Do you think it really affects them for the rest of their other races? Or do you think they can park it?
Well, not at their other races. I mean, I think that certainly, the expectation can weigh heavy on the shoulders at certain races. And also, it's described as his Monaco curse, right? But the fact of the matter is that once something goes wrong a couple of times, it's always in the back of your mind. It's like if you fail your driving test twice, the third time you're absolutely bricking it, you're going to do it again. So that's probably what happens. But he's had terrible luck, and and the last couple of times it's been strategy, and that is an issue for Ferrari. It was an issue for Ferrari. It was an issue under Binotto, and it seems to be a bit of an issue still under Fred Vasseur. And massive respect for Fred, and he and Charles go way back. It should be a super team, but the mistakes are still happening, and they haven't got a bad car, but it's these operational mistakes that keep happening, which are so frustrating. And you can't win championships if you're fluffing pit stops and screwing up your strategy, putting the wrong tires on, that sort of thing. It just doesn't happen. Red Bull don't make that mistake ever. You're not going to beat Red Bull if you keep making those mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, was I meant to say something there?
No, it's all right. I'm here. There's one more thing I wanted to say on Charles Leclerc, and I guess it comes from his earlier racing through 2016 doing GP3 in 1 year, 2017 doing F2 in 1 year. There's some drivers which get through that system very quickly, and then they can turn up to Formula One and maybe not necessarily hit it. Do you think it's... I'm not saying Charles Leclerc hasn't hit Formula One. You know, he nearly won was Bahrain his third race. He won
Ferrari. Yeah.
Belgium, Italy. Oh, sorry, yeah, Ferrari. He really sort of hit the ball rolling very quickly. Do you think there are? Do you think the junior formula and succeeding in junior formula is the key to success in Formula One, or do you think it's good to sort of do the worker thing that drivers like Pourchaire or Van Dorn have done in the past to try and get to Formula One? Do you think is it better to have more time in junior series?
You know, I mean, let's take Verstappen for example. Verstappen was on the way up with Leclerc. You know, similar age. Charles was a little bit younger. They were going up the ranks together. They were taking wins and championships off each other all the way up. And then, you know, the last bit, you know, Verstappen basically skipped a run and went straight into F1 and immediately dazzled. Charles did the sensible option, which was to do each run, but 1 year in each, and then came out and also immediately impressed. You know, I mean, his first, well, I mean, basically, I mean, I realize that this season is, you know, he's struggling a little bit with the car and all the rest of it. But up until this point, I mean, it's been up and up and up and up. And, you know, whereas you get other drivers who, for whatever reason, you know, they do 2 years in GP2, F2, whatever, you know, and they just lose the momentum. And basically, you know, it's just bloody competitive. To get into Formula One, you need to deliver every year, every time. And there's no excuses for being a rookie. You need to go out and win races in year one. Yeah. And, you know, there's no apprenticeship. So basically, you know, it used to be that you turned up in Formula One when you were like sort of 28 years old with a bunch of experience behind you and maturity. And now you turn up at sort of like 19, 20, having, you know, basically not properly been to school. And you have to make sense of it. It's not easy. And I actually don't think it's healthy. But, you know, that's the way it's working now. That's what all these, you know, teams and academies are looking for. And it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's something that I've said before. You go back to 2000 when Jenson Button was making his debut. And the outcry about, 20 years old, is he way too young for this? Is he going to be able to cope at 20 years old in an F1 car? Yeah. And now we've had race winners younger than that.
Yeah.
And, you know, that really is the way that things have changed. Obviously, I mean, the junior series weren't as sort of organised, and there wasn't the exact pathway that we've got now, which I think, you know, that's something that Liberty, I think, really done well, is to work with the FIA to get the pathway from regional F4, F3, F2, and then the final step.
Well, they're all it's very organised, and there are more and more championships, but they're all incredibly expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
leg up. You know?
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on earlier, because a couple of years ago we had Abby Pulling on the show, who's obviously now in the F1 Academy and on the Alpine Academy program, and we asked her off the record. I'm not going to give any numbers out here. What various areas of sponsorship on the car would be, what the cost would be, just to keep her on the track for the season. And the figures that she gave were absolutely mind-blowing, and that was just for a British F4 car. And, you know, there was six figures, well into six figures, just for a small area of the car, and that all went to the budget. That wasn't going to, that wasn't going in her back pocket. That was actually going to keeping the team on the track.
Yeah. I mean, also in the lower Formula, it's almost impossible to raise enough sponsorship to cover the costs. You know, and only because motorsport sponsorship really only makes sense once you're in the sort of top tiers, certainly in single seaters. So basically, that's why Formula One drivers are reliant on having rich parents or their parents having rich friends. That's sort of how it works. Or they come from a country, or they've got some kind of USP whereby they can leverage sponsorship that way.
Just like Sergio Perez has done with the backing that he's got from Carlos Slim, for example.
Yeah, I mean, so Carlos Slim sponsored a whole bunch of Mexican drivers, and Perez became sort of the favorite one. But yeah, no, I mean, basically what Telmex and the Carlos Slim empire, what they were doing is a bit similar to what Elf were doing with French drivers in the 70s and early 80s. And Perez has emerged as the Alain Prost of of Mexico. Although I don't see him getting full world championships.
With slightly less wins, but just as big a rivalry with a teammate.
Senna.
Well, I mean, I think when it was Prost Senna, it was a little bit more even than Verstappen Perez. But nice.
It's interesting, because you say about governments back in. What year was it? 2015. I was doing a MA uni project on junior motor racing, which had about Alex Rossi, and he was saying to get the Marussia seat or whatever it was called then, Manor in 2016, he wasn't going up against Rio Haryanto necessarily as in a driver talent thing. He was going up against the Indonesian government. They were the ones who were really pushing for Haryanto. So it's either you could be as talented as you need to be as successful in junior motorsport. I'm not saying Haryanto was necessarily slow in F or GP2 as it was at the time, but you can come across if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you just don't make it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, F1 teams will always take the fast money, the quickest way to make a buck. Not necessarily the best way long term. Very short-sighted. I mean, I think it's amazing in this day and age that F1 teams rely on young drivers to bring in sponsorship. I mean, these are professional organizations that have professional sponsorship departments, but these departments are purely there to service the existing sponsors, and there's very little proactivity. It's shocking to me, and it's been this way forever.
So, sorry, Paul.
I was just going to say, you read about young drivers having to spend 50% of their time when they should be learning racecraft, selling themselves, and actually trying to prize money out of companies just to get their name on a pair of overalls. And
it's a massive distraction. It's a massive distraction, and also it's one thing when you're in your 20s or in your 30s, but when you're meant to be doing your GCSEs.
Yeah,
and you're trying to do your racing and all the rest of it. You're meant to go out and do that. I mean, it's balmy. It's absolutely balmy. So I mean, they you sort of wonder what these managers do and all the rest of it. But it's it's their job to go out and get the sponsorship, not the kids.
How are you finding Formula One in 2023? Going out to races, how are you finding this season in general?
I mean, it's not a classic so far. I mean, look, you can argue the fact that we may be about to see the most dominant F1 driver and F1 team over the course of a season that we've ever seen, and history in the history books we'll look back and think. I mean, it's the same way that you look back in the Schumacher years between 2000 and 2004, right, and you think, wow, glory years. Well, no, because at the time it was incredibly bloody boring. I mean, it was boring. Every time you knew it was going to be Schumacher, or maybe he'd let Barrichello pass or something like that. Bloody boring. Even though, you were watching incredible engineering and whatever, I think we need rivalries. We need a fight for the championship. Ideally, we need more than one team in the fight for the championship. There are some great stories, further down the pack. I would love to see Alonso win in an Aston Martin. God, that would be good. I really want to see Lewis Hamilton win another race, ideally this year. You've got, I mean, there are a bunch of teams. Alex Albon, wow, what a start. I mean, he deserves a top seat again. There's a perfect example of being, going through the Red Bull system and, being sort of over promoted too fast, and it threatened to destroy his career. Well, he's coming back and he's, emerging as one of the best drivers on the grid, and there are now loads of rumours about maybe him going to Ferrari and taking sights to see. So there are, there are some good drivers out there. There are some good rivalries further down the pack, but Verstappen winning every race is a bit of a turn off. And I'll tell you what, I mean, the 2021 season, Verstappen, Hamilton, which will go down as one of the all-time classics, which was obviously catnip for a series like Drive to Survive. I don't know what Drive to Survive is really going to be able to do to spin this one. I mean, it's a bit of a flop this season.
I'm sure they'll probably still manage to get a full episode on Gunther Steiner.
Well, I mean, when Otmar got fired, I was like, "That's an episode."
Funnily enough, we said the same on our chat group.
Yeah.
I mean that is a bit of an odd one. Firing your team principal.
Yeah.
Mid-season.
Mid-weekend.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, mid-weekend. But that's even rarer. I mean, look, I like Otmar a lot. And I've known him for quite a long time, and he's very, very able, and he's great, and he's an asset to the paddock, and I hope he comes back in some other guys. But yes, I do think that's a massive mistake, and also letting go of Alain Permain and all the rest of it. I mean, what it seems to be is, the sort of the Alpine suits or the Renault suits, in Paris, thinking, okay, we want to win Grand Prix, we need to make changes, and not understanding that it takes a long time. You had to put the jigsaw together first, and that's what Otmar was doing. And I think that they've actually, I think they frightened the birds actually with it, because I think a lot of staff at Enstone are going to start looking for other jobs. And I think you look at Alonso and you look at Oscar Piastri, and you think, yeah, they made the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so strange to think that. You'd look at the Alonso decision a year ago and go, Aston Martin, 7th, 8th best team on the grid, you sure? I don't know what... Several times Alonso has made the wrong career decision, but he's absolutely nailed this one. When it comes to those sort of things which happen in the paddock, do you think that people get an inkling, get a heads up that something is happening behind the scenes for them before it's officially announced? Or do you think these things... Do you think people are surprised by these things, or do you think they know something like this is coming? Because Alain Permain, for all the things that the Enstone team has gone through over the years, it's hard to see this one being the one that sinks Alain Permain out of Renault Alpine.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Alain has been at it for a long time, and I wouldn't blame him at all if he just chose to retire.
Yeah,
but these things are they don't always come as a complete surprise. You sort of you might only hear about it the day before or whatever, but these rumors always start whirling, and it was like that with Otmar for a few weeks actually. Yeah. But I didn't want to believe it. I mean, I just thought surely they can't be that stupid.
Yeah, no, it's totally understandable as well. On the Thursday of the weekend, you're sacked after this weekend, but please hang around.
Yeah.
There's several office-based jobs where you firmly park it when you're not needed for that long, but to be let go of a race weekend when you've got the world's media on you is something else.
Well, I mean, it had all the hallmarks of a knee-jerk, last-minute decision, but I mean, I think it was a big error. But you know what the rumor is that Mattia Binotto is going to take over.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think Binotto is the right replacement for Schaffnauer? Do you think it will make much of a difference behind the scenes?
Not really. I mean, I think it will take a year for him to bed in. So that's another year lost. And Binotto, he's really good. He's really good. But I mean, I do think that he was best as a kind of a technical chief more than a sort of CEO type team principal.
Yeah.
So, he I mean, maybe if he hadn't been made team principal at Ferrari, maybe if he'd stayed in the job that he was in, Ferrari would be challenging Red Bull right now.
But that would have involved Ferrari making a good decision, and as we know, they're historically not the best at getting things right.
Form's not on their side.
I mean, you've got quite a lot of chefs in the kitchen there, and you've got John Elkann, who's the sort of Agnelli scion, who's ostensibly the big white chief. But then you've got lots of other people trying to get his ear. And I get the sense with Elkann that he believes and sides with the last person he spoke to. Really, I think you need leadership there with a bit more of an iron fist and obviously overall vision. And I think they've they've buggered it up, frankly. for a while, yeah. Well, let's see, But the thing is with Fred as well, obviously he's not the first Frenchman that's run Scuderia Ferrari, and the last one did a pretty good job. So, and he can, although he's a lovely avuncular guy, he can also play the politics. But he's going to have to with this, and it's going to take some time. But we all want to. Well, I don't have a favorite team or favorite driver. I always say, my favorite's the one who's buying the drinks. But Ferrari is a special team.
You sure you're not from Yorkshire?
I think I do have some northern blood, yeah. And we all want to see Ferrari do well. That's very important, I think, for the Formula One brand. I like underdogs, so I like the prospect of a team like Ferrari getting an occasional win, not necessarily championship after championship, but I want to see Ferrari back as soon as possible. And obviously, I'd like for Charles Leclerc to win a race as soon as possible, so that maybe I can sell some books. Because right now, I can almost feel being discounted in real time because he's not in the championship hunt. But let's see.
Well, if anyone's listening, how do they get their hands on a copy of your book?
Well, I believe it's available from all good bookshops. It's certainly available on Amazon, and it should be in some real life bookshops. It's at Smiths and Wolstons and that sort of thing.
And of course, the Audible version as well.
Yes, the Audible version as well, which came out before the paperback. I'm not really sure why, but although if you get the paperback, then you get a prologue at the start, which wasn't recorded on the audiobook version. I'm not really sure why, but anyway, but they're both great. Well,
if you may say so yourself. What I do quite like about the audiobook is that I can't remember who the person who is reading the audiobook is.
Yes, a chap called Luis Soto, he's Spanish, but he speaks in lovely received pronunciation. But the funny thing is that he sort of overpronounces foreign words, which I rather enjoy. So
exactly what I was about to say.
I think it's great.
It's very, oh yes, and this is the Formula One race. Of course, it was won by Esteban Ocon. It's fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
I'm going to have to get a copy of this.
All the foreign words is fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's like a linguistic travelogue. It's marvelous.
It's wonderful, very enjoyable. I've still got an hour left of it, so I'm looking forward to getting through the last hour.
I may be starting this very soon. I might actually go and spend one of my Audible credits on a copy now. Yeah. And if your publishers are very nice to us, hopefully we'll have a couple of copies to give away, because we'd like everybody to read it, because it is. I've started reading it. It's a cracking read, and I definitely recommend a read, or obviously a listen. And all I can say, Adam, is thank you very much for coming on and giving up some of your time. And maybe you'll come on the show again when the whole team's here and we can have a full F1 chat.
Yeah, that'd be terrific. That'd be really, really good. Just let me know anytime. I'll be more than happy.
Yeah, and what we always do with guests as well is, how do people follow you on the socials? Whereabouts can they find you?
Yep. So I'm on Twitter, which is at Adam Hay Nichols without the hyphen, which is usually there. And I am on Instagram as well, which is at Adamski173.
That's in tune with your name and not your love for Adamski, I'm assuming.
No, it is for my love for Adamski. That's why, yeah, killer and all that. Yeah, absolutely.
He's put a seal on that.
I'll
see myself out.
Fantastic. So yeah, F1 is Twitter is mostly where I post F1 stuff, and Instagram is more where I post pictures of me dicking around in supercars. or on holiday. But take your pick.
That's great, Adam. Thank you so much, and hopefully, like I say, we'll speak again soon.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thanks.
Right, there we go, and we're hoping to have a few more guests on over the next few weeks as well. We're actually working hard to make up for all the weeks that we've missed by getting extra people on, just so as it averages out over the course of the year. must get in touch with Scarbs again at some point. He's well overdue, and Statman as well.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks for listening to our opinions on the bottom half of the grid. We will be more positive about the top half. Well, most of the top half.
No, they've all had dramas, though, haven't they?
I'm looking forward to next week. I'm really looking forward to that.
There's going to be a lot of things to say. Yeah, clear your diaries. It's not going to be the shortest show that we've ever done next week, I don't think. If you want to get in touch, then obviously the website, threelegs4wheels.com. You can also do the prediction game on there, which will be obviously kicking off again in a couple of weeks for the Dutch Grand Prix. It feels weird having a Dutch Grand Prix after the end of the summer break and not a Belgian one.
Yeah.
Not sure how I feel about this.
They're both Max Verstappen races anyway, aren't they?
I'm going to miss part or nearly all of the next 3 or 4 races, which is really well. I'll catch the races eventually. I've got so much going on in the next few weeks that by the time it comes around to about Suzuka or Qatar, I'll be on the podcast going, "What happened to the Dutch Grand Prix?" I've got no knowledge of it whatsoever. I'm not looking forward to that. I mean, I can't wait to see my family and friends and move house and all that sort of thing. Adam's wedding, it's going to be lovely. If he could have done it not on Qatar Grand Prix weekend, I'd be very grateful. But,
I'm so selfish.
evil bastard. Yeah.
Although saying that, at the British Grand Prix weekend, I couldn't watch the race live because I was taking my son to a dinosaur show that was on at the local theatre, and I couldn't help think to myself, if I'd have realised this at the time, you wouldn't have been going to this fucking show.
We have a calendar at home now, which is basically which weekends are free. Okay, well, Dutch is 26th of August, Monza's the 2nd, December. Not good.
Yeah, I think we booked a holiday for conveniently just a few hours after the is it the Qatar race?
I can't remember actually that far in advance the calendar.
I'm gonna have to look at this. I know there's one that we're definitely got. Yeah, it's yes, we go away the day of the Qatar Grand Prix.
Yeah,
that's bad timing, but we're home in time for the US one 2 weeks later. So.
We're away for a week over the Suzuka Grand Prix, and we're going to Rhodes in Greece when they pull it out. And I think it's Suzuka, which is 7 a.m., which means for us it's 9 a.m. So
that's slightly
I've
more
almost
pleasing.
done a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
I like that.
Yeah, that's
Oh, listen more on the second half of the Three Legs Travel Report.
yeah.
Yeah. I have to do traffic and travel 2 days a week now, and I won't lie to you, it's mostly pre-recorded. So yeah, I have
Traffic is pre-recorded.
Yes.
We're getting all the secrets of local radio here.
I can do our traffic and travel. If there's nothing happening, I can do it without a script because it's always exactly the same every day. when the boat does something weird because the tides are a bit funny in Hesham, I am fucked.
I always end my traffic travel report with, "If you see anything out there, please do get in touch with us." But it's pre-recorded,
That's
so
really
I can't
weird.
help you.
That's how I end my UFO podcast.
On that note, if you do say anything out there and want to get in touch with us, then you can email threelegs4wheels@gmail.com or at threelegs4wheels on the socials, or look for us on Discord. There's always chats going on and all our sim racing stuff on there. And individually on Twitter and other socials, we are
At Sean Cowper.
At Kieran is boring.
at the Lee Stevens.
Chris is at Flood21. He will be coming back soon. Happy birthday, Chris, by the way. It's round about now.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And I am at Pablo100.
It's not called Twitter anymore.
Oh, sorry, X.
X.
You-
Elon chat.
You can X us at. That just sounds wrong. And
Does there needs to be a new word for tweets if he's going to go and do this sort of stuff.
Yeah. As someone who used to work for the BBC, I can't say you can X us. You end up in the Daily Mail.
and nobody wants that. Right, we'll be back next week with the top half of the team standings, and I am convinced there will be some silly season manoeuvrings before then, and a preview of the wrongly scheduled Dutch Grand Prix. So, in the meantime, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.